It's Friday again and welcome to another ramble. I hope that you've had a good week and done all the things you wanted to do within the restrictions. We've been struggling a bit with homeschooling. I really do take my hat off to teachers because you suddenly realise it's been a long time since I was in the classroom, and you realise quite how tough it is being quite disciplined, getting their children to work. But it's amazing all the online resources that there are now. It's just unfortunate for us that our internet is very slow. So when we have 3 children and myself all on the internet, it causes a little bit of friction every now and then, but never mind. The week's been quite sobering, hasn't it, with the numbers of cases of people with the virus increasing and sadly all those terrible deaths as well. And it's been sad to see, understandably, but still sad to see so many churches and cathedrals that are deciding to close their doors for safety reasons. Let's hope that we can still keep going, certainly for a while, and hang on to that ray of hope. It's getting a bigger ray, isn't it, all the time, that as more people get vaccinated, that it will be possible for us to be released a bit from all these restrictions and that normal life can get back to normal a little bit more. I must say this morning I went to the supermarket and the petrol station and it really did feel like the most exciting thing that I'd done this week. It's got to that. I must be going stir crazy. Anyway, how did you get on with Quickfire 5 last week? I think it was a little bit more difficult. I've had 1 or 2 people emailing me. I've had 1 or 2 people emailing me and telling me that they got 5 right the week before, so well done to you guys. And 1 or 2 people saying, well, that was a bit tougher this week. Well, that was the idea. So anyway, let me give you the answers to last week's questions. So the first one was, which composer wrote an oratorio which includes choruses about swarms of insects, fire and hail, and an aria about frogs and diseased cattle? Lovely subject. Well, the answer, of course, was Handel, and the oratorio in question was Israel in Egypt. If you don't know Israel in Egypt, it's wonderful. Some fantastic choruses, well worth a listen. But that's where that one came from. That's the answer. Second question, which was, which of the following mass settings is not written by Mozart? And we had the Sparrow Mass, the Coronation Mass, the Nelson Mass, the Credo Mass. Well, the answer there is the Nelson Mass, which was written by Haydn. Question 3, this was a tough one. If you got this, have an extra mark. Which German poet wrote the text used for Beethoven's Ninth Symphony? 1 or 2 people said to me Goethe, which was a very educated and sensible answer, but it was the wrong answer. The right answer is Friedrich Schiller, and Beethoven had great respect for Schiller's poetry. Number 4, who wrote Belshazzar's Feast? That wonderful, wonderful contemporary oratorio. And the answer is William Walton. Again, if you don't know it, listen to it. And finally, in what language did Bernstein write his Chichester Psalms? And the answer was Hebrew. And there's a great story about how John Birch, who had commissioned it and who was organist of Chichester, was waiting for it to perform it at the Southern Cathedrals Festival. And Bernstein was very late with producing it. And he said he'd fax it through. Do you remember faxes? He said he'd fax it through. And it was getting to about 3 weeks before the performance, and John still hadn't got it. And then the fax started coming through, and to John Birch's utter horror, it was all in Hebrew. But it all worked out in the end. So there we go. That was 5 questions. So this week, 1 or 2 tricky ones again this week. See how you get on. First question is quite a hard one, actually. Which German composer, he's a well-known composer, which German composer famously said, I may not be a first-rate composer, but I'm a first-class second-rate composer? That's a good quote, isn't it? Who was that? Question 2. Every year there's a famous church music festival held for a week in a lovely Wiltshire village. Beautiful church there. Whereabouts is that? Question number 3, for those of you who think you know your hymns. In which hymn do you find the words, I once was lost, but now am found? That's not very difficult, is it? Question number 4. Which famous Welsh church music composer is buried in the grounds of St Asaph Cathedral? I'll give you a clue. He wrote an anthem for a royal occasion in the last 30, 40 years. And the last question is, how many organ sonatas did Mendelssohn write? How many? They were the culmination of his writing for organ, the organ sonatas. So there we go, that's Quick Fire 5 for this week. Always at this point in my ramble, I tell you to log on to www.swanageteam.com, where you will find the liturgy for this coming Sunday. And there are services held at 8 and then at 10:30 in St Mary's at the moment still, so fingers crossed that they can continue. So for my recommendation of music for this week, and I hope you enjoyed last week. I know 1 or 2 people again mailed in and said how much they had. For this week, I've just mentioned Mendelssohn, who championed the organ works of Johann Sebastian Bach. Mendelssohn was an amazing organist himself, and he came over to England and he really introduced the English to the work of Bach and really encouraged English organists to play Bach's music. But of course, as we all know, he was also a wonderful choral composer. And some of you will remember, I can't remember how many years ago it was now, where with the Dorset choirs all together we did, what did we do? We did Elijah, didn't we? Elijah. My brain is addling here. All those fantastic choruses, very exciting. So he had a real feel for melody and for drama, and he particularly loved the texts from the Old Testament, which were so dramatic. And towards the very end of his life, right at the end, he started writing a new oratorio, which in fact was published, the bits that he wrote was published posthumously after his death. And it was called Christus, but it was never finished, and it just had little sections. But from Christus is a wonderful Epiphany anthem, usually performed in church in 3 sections. First of all, a treble solo, and then a lovely trio for tenor and bass, tenor and 2 basses or baritone bass, and then a fantastic chorus. There shall a star from Jacob come forth, and it ends up with that lovely Epiphany chorale, how brightly shines the morning star. It's very dramatic. It's got some really wonderful bits in the full chorus. So I have given you a score so that you can follow it, and I'm pointing you to a lovely performance recorded a few years ago by Truro Cathedral Choir. I don't think we've listened to them. They're one of the best cathedral choirs in the country, I think. But it's a lovely performance by them. It's called When Jesus Our Lord Was Born in Bethlehem, and it really tells the story of the leading of the wise men by the star. So if you don't know it, it's well worth a listen. It's very typically Mendelssohn, but it's got some lovely melodies, and it's also really quite dramatic. It's one I've always thought choristers have enjoyed singing. And then, as I say, it has this lovely chorale at the end, which is really beautiful, and it ends up really quietly. So that's for you. Enjoy. I'm in a slightly different part of my study today, so I've got to go about another 2 feet from where I normally do to do some warm-ups. So hold your horses and we'll get on with it. I nearly tripped over the dog on the way over, but here I am. I thought I'd keep it nice and simple today and stick with some warm-ups that you know very well. Remind you of your posture, as always. If you're sitting up, open chest, nice and relaxed, just balance the head as well. Always just take a few deep breaths. Always think about doing some sirens or anything like that, just to gently warm up. Okay, so today let's just start with ooh. We know this one, just going ooh, 3, 4. to R. Ah, just relax that jaw. Good, well done. That got us up an octave. So let's now do our ya 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 exercise. Relax jaw, nice and open. Let's do it about mezzo 4. So you're going ya 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 ya. One more. Ya 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 ya. Good, well done. And let's do our old favourite. We haven't done it for a while. A R E. 1, 2, 3. A R E A R E A R E A R E A R E A R E. Good, that was fun. I always enjoy that one. Hope that felt good for you. So, I wish you all a very safe and healthy week. Maybe one or two of you might be getting a vaccination soon. Who knows? That'd be exciting. Do let us know. But in the meantime, enjoy your time locked away, and hopefully maybe see some of you over the weekend. But if not, hope it won't be too long. Take care.